Welcome back to another episode. I am Sticks. This is my best friend and co-host D'Lo, and we are Too Complex. We got some really good topics for y'all today, man. But first, let's do the YouTube thing. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and also that notification bell so you miss none of these bangers that we bring y'all every single week.
Yes,
But
sir.
man, D'Lo, we back with another episode, man. How was your past
We
week, bro?
back. We back. Past week was good. Weekend was even better. So as always, spent time with the family, but
Mm-hmm.
had
Mm-hmm.
the weekend to spend with the extended family. Got to celebrate love this weekend. One of my college teammates. I was a part of his wedding, and it was a beautiful event. Shared with two beautiful individuals, celebrate their union, and the people that were there with them, standing beside them, part of their wedding party are a great representation of who they are. All of those individuals were beautiful as well. So I met some new friends, got a chance to catch up with old friends, but really it was all about them this weekend. So I want to
That's dope.
shout out my dog E Gas, the man of the weekend, my dog for life, and also the newly T Gas. You looked amazing, and you got a new brother in me. So hope y'all have and continue to enjoy your weekend this weekend. But your life moving forward is filled with nothing but love and ups and downs. And as Big Gas said, if it has to be continual ups and downs, you know where it needs to be.
Exactly, man. Congratulations to y'all, man. I don't know you personally, but of course, on this side, man, congratulations, man. That's a beautiful union and nothing but love and prosperity to move forward, my G. Nothing but love and
Yeah, man. But how
prosperity, my
about
boy.
you? How was your last week and everything?
Man, my last week was filled with that coding class I told you I was starting this past week. But man, it's fun, bro. Like it's very thought provoking being in this class, and because you went through some coding classes yourself, or kind of self taught
Yeah,
yourself a little bit. So it's like
yeah,
it's so rewarding whenever you write all that code on that screen and it don't work. But once you figure out why it don't work and that joint pop up perfectly, it's like, let's go, bro. It's so rewarding to see your work and all of that syntax that you have on the screen come into something beautiful as far as like a web page or a portfolio or whatever you're building. It is so rewarding. So I'm engulfed in that right now, doing that pretty much full time,
yep.
basically like 8 to 10 hours a day. And I take my
Okay.
weekends also that way I can make sure that I'm spending time with Sam, spending time, doing the podcast, making sure we got that under wraps. But it's been an eventful week, man, and I'm so excited to move forward with it, bro. Should be done in September. August, end of August, beginning of September time, so that way I can get
Yep.
into the coding universe as far as like my next career moving forward. So it's gonna be dope, bro. It's gonna be dope. I'm
Yeah.
excited about it. I'm excited about it.
Well, best of luck to you for continuing to do that and moving forward. I know it'll be a challenge. Right now, you said you're doing HTML and CSS, right? Have you moved
HTML and
past that yet,
CSS.
or how long is that? Are you going to be on that?
Well, so I'm down to tomorrow. I'm gonna do the last section in this HTML and CSS portion of it, and then I
Yeah.
move on to JavaScript after that. They were saying it was supposed
Okay.
to take me a month to finish this portion of the class, but I finished it in 6 days.
Yeah.
So
The HTML stuff, man, is not that difficult. CSS is not that difficult too, but I, just remember this with that first part of it, coding in general, coding. You can always continue to learn as you go. So if it's something that you forget,
hmm
you can go back online and look it up and just implement where you need it to be.
for
But yeah,
sure.
that first part to me anyway, the HTML and the CSS was the easy part. The JavaScript is
hmm
where it starts to get. You actually feel like you're actually coding,
hmm
and you have to put more thought into the processes and the syntax and all the stuff that you're putting on the screen and where stuff needs to go. But yeah, like you said, it is rewarding when you see it actually, you all the work that you put together, it actually works and does what you want it to do. That is very rewarding. So
it's pretty fire. It's pretty fire. But on to the episode, man. So we got a couple of smaller little things we wanted to talk about to start off the day, man. First of all, we want to give our condolences to the Brown family. Jim Brown, one of the greatest running backs of all time,
the
passed away
legend.
this week. The legend passed away this week at the age of 87, man. So we want to definitely shout him out, starting out the day, man. Like I said, one of the greatest running backs of all time. I didn't personally know, and I learned this in my research that He retired after his 9th year, and he was at the peak of his career.
At the
And he
peak of
had
his career.
and just won his second MVP of the league and a Russian
Mm-hmm.
title and retired. I didn't personally know that. I know he had a short career, but I didn't know to the extent of how short it was and the reasons why he left.
Yeah.
Being a social activist and fighting for rights and wanted to pursue his acting career. And man, like Jim Brown was, although he had, of course, everybody has their transgressions, they have their setbacks. You know, that's every human
Mm-hmm.
being. We're human. We're not perfect, but for the reason why he left his career in the NFL, which was a prosperous career in the NFL,
Right.
to fight for equal rights and just his civic duties that he did within this country, not only just the state of Cleveland, but the country itself, was amazing, man. So shout out to Jim Brown. May you rest in paradise. May you rest in peace, man. And you were one of the greatest of all time, man, for sure.
100%. Legends never die, bro. We definitely lost a legend in Jim Brown. Like you said, died at 87. So I too want to send my condolences to the Brown family and all of those that mourn him, that
Mm-hmm.
were fans of Jim Brown or just respected what he did as a man, not only a football player, not only an actor, but also an activist and with the civil
Yes,
rights,
sir.
because he was a running back in the NFL at the height of the civil rights movement,
Mm-hmm.
and he was doing things while he was playing to push forward the not only the black race but this country and coming together. Now it seems like some things are you know busting at the seams and it's falling apart right now. But that's nothing to do with him and what he and those in that time had to, were doing to help us to get to where we are now. So I too want to, send out my condolences to the Brown family, but I want to acknowledge that the impact that Jim Brown and those athletes of that time had on where we are now will never be forgotten, and legends
So
never die.
legends never die, man. Rest in peace, Jim Brown, bro.
Yeah. All right, so what else we got? We got to talk about the weekend and his, or I want to say ordeal, but is it really an ordeal that he's going through right now? With he said he's going through he's reverting back to his birth name, and
Mm-hmm.
he is going through a cathartic. Is that how you said it? Cathartic
Going
time?
down a cathartic path. That's what he
Yeah,
said on
yeah.
social media. So he's already changed his name on social media to his birth name. But what he was meaning was because his birth name is Abel Mackinnon Tesfaye. The
Mm.
last name, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. It might be Tesfaye or
Tesfaye, nah,
Tesfaye.
right? Yeah,
Tesfaye. So he already went back to his birth name on his social media, but he was just saying that he was going down a cathartic path, meaning like he was going down like a little bit of a dark path within his career as the Weeknd. And a lot of megastars go through that. They go through their fights with addiction and things of that nature. So he said in an article that I did read about why he said that is that he's trying to put that part of his life behind him so that way he can start anew. He said this next album that he's going to make is going to be the last installment of the Weeknd, and he's going to move forward as Abel. And that's compliments to him, man, because not a lot of people really catch their mental health up front. Some people let
mm,
it get to a point where they can't handle it. RIP Twitch, and they just kind of let go and self delete in a sense. But shout out to the Weeknd for catching that early, so that way he doesn't get to that point and realize that cathartic path can lead to a deep depression and a suffering that he doesn't want to go through. So shout out to him for doing that. But he said he's going to kill the Weeknd, not not in literal sense, but he's going to kill
right.
that part of his life and move on as Abel and continue his prosperous career because he has a lot of hits and he's one of the biggest. He set Guinness Book of World Records. I don't know if you knew that, but he set a couple of Guinness Book of World Records with his music, and hopefully he can continue to do that as Abel.
Well, I mean, my question is, and yeah, first before I say what I'm going to say or ask what I'm going to ask is, yeah, I'm glad he's able to catch this dark path that he, before he goes into that dark path, he's able to, take a step back and, reevaluate everything that's going on with him. And, we all know, and we've discussed multiple times on this podcast, the mental health can, how mental health can take its effect on stars or anybody in general, but it
Mm-hmm.
seemed to have taken a toll on a lot of entertainers, both celebrities and athletes
Athletes, yep.
nowadays. And, it's money can't protect you from mental health issues. Fame can't protect you from mental health issues. So it really just seems like nowadays people are really tuned into their mental health and really focusing on them, and not really caring what it means for them down the line. And when I say that, and it kind of leads into my question, is what does him no longer going under the acronym or the name, stage name, The Weeknd, what does that mean for him as a business, his money, the actual songs that he's wrote and done under The Weeknd? Does he now, does he no longer have access to to that IP, that intellectual
Mhm.
property, or can he also move that with him as he reverts back to his birth name, or does he now have ownership of all of that information now, all of that stuff now that he'll be able, and that's his name, right? Abel, right? Yeah,
No
Abel.
pun intended. Yeah, right.
Yeah, no pun intended. As he feel able moving forward, we have access to what he does from that point on, and that would be his and not the studio or the companies that he worked for, the record labels he works for. Do you know?
I'm not particularly sure as far as how that works out, as far as his, as his what he could do with his music moving forward. But I look at it like this, and just to answer your question, I look at it like P Diddy moving from P Diddy to just Diddy. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, and I think that's all still going to be his music. And I think he still has access to it. I think he still has access to that catalog. I don't think it's going to change anything. I think it's honestly just him changing his name. I think people still going to look at him as The Weeknd, but he doesn't want that. He I think he's looking at The Weeknd as like as a thought process, so to
yeah,
speak, as like his alter ego, if you will, for
right,
lack of a better phrase. And it's like that alter ego needs to go because it's taking him down a dark path, and he doesn't want to go down that path anymore. So I'm looking at it like
right.
a P Diddy to just Diddy kind of change. He still has his music. It's still his music. It's still his catalog. He still probably owns, most of his masters for that music, but I
Does
think
he?
it's just honestly just a name change. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't look into
Yeah,
that. I just kind of looked into the mental health portion of it.
right, right.
But
Yeah,
I think it's just looking at it as like a name change, like a little from a Little Wayne to just Wayne type of thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or like a P
yeah.
Diddy to just Diddy, you know?
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I guess I could see that. My only thing is with Diddy, and well, I'll start with Diddy first, and then I'll move to Wayne because you mentioned both of them. The only thing
mhm,
with Diddy is Diddy owned Bad Boy, and so
true.
pretty much everything that he put out was belonged to Bad Boy, but because he owned it, it also belonged to
He
him.
also belonged to him. True.
So the name change really wouldn't affect him so much unless he, behind closed doors, is underneath another record label and he's just Bad Boy, which I think he was, but he still owned whatever percentage of Bad Boy. So, and then for
Hmm.
Lil Wayne, as we saw, he did change his name, but we had to wait for the Carter Five to come out for I don't know how long because he was waiting to get money from Baby, or he was trying to get back pay or something like that from Baby for all of the music that he did. So I
Hmm.
mean, that's I mean, I'm not taking away from the mental health aspect of it.
Right. No,
Like I
for
said,
sure.
people are no longer caring about the money, the fame. They're more concerned with their mental health and being here, their
Hmm.
physical health as well. And so I kudos to The Weeknd for catching this before it got too far down the road, before he got too deep into that darkness to come back out to see the light. Um, but it was just something that popped in my head as I was researching. It's like, what does this mean now that he's changing his name? Because I know it will be some type of ramification for him no longer being The Weeknd and now moving to his government name or his birth name.
For sure, it may be, but like we said, shout out to him taking your mental health seriously, because men are a lot more. They're like we talked about when we talked about Twitch and when we talked about John Wall back a few episodes back, how we're taught to be so strong and not to show so much emotion and not to cry and get up and wipe it off, and we're meant to be such powerful beings in this world that we can forget that our mental health is an important factor to us moving forward in our life in general. So shout out to the Weekend, man, for looking into that and taking that very, very seriously.
Yeah. All right, man. So Rick Ross on Drink Champs claims that him, Drake, and Jay-Z are in the 2 percentile when it
Two
comes to writers
percentile.
that can hear a beat and rap on spot.
What you
What's your
think,
thoughts on
D-Lo?
that?
What you think? What you think?
Listen, it's Ross's opinion, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's widely known that Jay-Z is one of the individuals that doesn't write down his rhymes, and that he can create songs or raps within minutes, at most hours, and give you, if not a classic, give you something that you can kind of nod to or thought provoking. Um, I don't think most individuals would put Drake or Rick Ross in this instance. And the reason I say Drake or Rick Ross, like Drake is one of the biggest stars ever when it comes to music. However, he's been intertwined multiple times with a ghostwriting scandal, I'll say. But
Allegedly.
everybody, right, right. Well, it's not. Well, I don't think it's
It's
alleged.
not
I think
it's
it's
not I
true.
don't think it's alleged. I think it's
Yeah,
true too,
yeah,
honestly. Yeah.
it's true. But the reason I put the air quotes is because considered a scandal because of who it is. But if you talk to multiple artists when it comes to creating music, every last one of them will tell you they have a team behind them that helps create their music.
Mm-hmm.
Some have writers, others have producers that they're go-tos, and they have teams behind them. So I don't think Drake is considered in that 2 percentile. And this is public opinion, not
Mm-hmm.
actual artist opinion, right? So that's what I'm
Right.
talking about here. So I don't think Drake would be one of those individuals that the public would think of as, oh, Drake hears a beat, he just goes in. I don't think that's the case. Drake's
Mm-hmm.
going, old Drake, you remember, I don't know if you remember, but he pulled out the phone, he had a BlackBerry full of rhymes and shit. Maybe that's what he's
Mm-hmm.
talking about, but I don't think he hears it and says, oh, this is what I want to put. He has to go back into his book and figure out what he wants to do. Rick Ross, while Rick Ross is a great artist,
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I also don't think he is thought of as in that 2 percentile that can say, "Oh, he heard that, he did that." Man, I don't know. It's his opinion.
Mm-hmm.
He probably knows best than we do about
Because he's
what
in the
really goes
industry for
on.
sure. Yeah.
He's in the industry. Probably he
Yeah.
knows what goes on in the studios, what doesn't. We just from the outside looking in. And he does. He has said in his video, in his songs, over a decade. He didn't say in the industry, but he said over a decade and still nobody's favorite. So I think at this point in time in his career, where he's moving into more of a businessman,
Mm-hmm.
he's probably looking for a little bit of notoriety,
And validation. Yeah.
validation in the industry that he made most of his money in, by lumping himself with arguably one of the best rappers of all time and arguably
The
one of the best artists of all time in
mm-hmm.
Drake. So
I can agree with you. I can agree with that because when I saw the headline, and the first thing I thought was Ross Drake.
yeah,
Okay, so I mean, it's like, of course, Jay, top 5 dead or alive, right?
right.
But I can't see myself putting Drake or I'm a Drake fan, so let's not get it twisted. I love Drake's music, loves Drake's
Mhm.
performances, love Drake's videos. Even though I don't watch music videos as much as I used to, but
I think if anybody says they don't like Drake,
they're a
I,
hater.
they're a hater. They may have their reasons for why they don't like Drake, but ultimately, I'm gonna say they're a hater because he makes good music. It might not be catered to how you want it to be. It might not be hardcore rap, but he makes good music.
One hundred
That's all
percent,
we need to say.
100%. But like you said, man, it's one of those things where it's like a lot of people use ghostwriters. I mean, shoot, whoever thought that Neo wrote a bunch of songs for Beyonce? Come on, like,
Right,
you know what I'm saying? So a lot of people use ghostwriters, but to be able to just go into the studio, hear a beat, and be like, "This what I'm gonna say," and roll with it, and it be fire every single time. There's not a lot of rappers that can do that. And I don't even think. I mean, if you want to call it a 2 percentile, I mean, I think it's even smaller than that. To keep it 100 with you, that people
right,
can actually, for people who can actually do that, I would say maybe even Kendrick would be even in that 2 percentile, but he didn't mention Kendrick. You know what I'm saying?
right.
But at the same time, with that being said, like and you mentioned the Blackberry, just like he said in that "Say Was Real" freestyle when on the mixtape. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Oh, So Far Gone.
Yeah,
he was like, if you find a BlackBerry with the size grows, so that motherfucker the indie rapper that I know, because they need it much more than I ever will. Because I guess he is kind of hinting towards like I'm one of the realest niggas out, but
Right.
you use ghostwriters too. So and you
Yeah.
have a team, but it's not to say that he's not one of those guys that can do it. But I wouldn't personally, and I think public opinion wouldn't personally put Drake or Rick Ross in that instance. But like you said, it's his opinion. And he's also, and Rick Ross also said, because it was the interview that we're talking about is on Drink Champs, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a portion in there that was like that's why I don't have a lot of features on my songs most times, because people are scared to come into the studio with me because I'm doing stuff in one take.
Right.
I hear the beat and I hear the production and I hear the melody of the song, and I can go right now. You know, I can put something on paper right now, or I can go in the booth right now and put something down. And most people can't do that. That's why they don't. That's why they are kind of discouraged to come into the studio with me, because they know that's how I am. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you say so, my boy, you know what I'm saying? I
I
don't
mean,
think
he was
court of public opinion, I don't think will put you in that 2%. But
right.
I admire the confidence 100%, because you have to be
Yeah.
that when you focusing on your craft, you got to be that kind of confident for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and he was going in that whole interview with Drink
Mm-hmm.
Champs. He was dropping gems.
He
He
was.
was, giving shout outs to individuals. Like I said, he shouted out Jay, he shouted out Wayne, shouted out old school rappers, Public Enemy, in
Mm-hmm.
the Quick Time with Slime. He gave out a shout out to Miami rappers, Florida rappers. So he was just going in. I think Rick Ross is his, how he business savvy, definitely business savvy. So
100%.
it's a play behind this somewhere. I believe that's just how I think nowadays. Is that everything that goes out is a play to some regard that can benefit the individual that said whatever they said or is doing whatever they're doing. It's not just people don't just say stuff nowadays and not have something behind it.
True.
At least in the public. Now, one on one, you have those genuine individuals, but to do it publicly is far and few in between. So, and not to say that's not Ross, but in my opinion, again, it's something behind that, and why he said what he said, and why he was saying the stuff that he was saying, uh, just in general, business savvy. So I think it has something to do with his businesses and all of the all of the interactions that he had with these individuals. Not He definitely respects Jay and Drake. So we'll see what comes out of this mention on Drink Champs.
100%. 100%.
All right, and then what else we got? We got Gabrielle Union making news for
Mm-hmm.
saying her and D Wade split the bills 50-50. And she still feels anxiety about being financially secure due to all the responsibilities, which forces her to be a workaholic.
Workaholic.
How do you feel about Gabrielle's comment, Sticks?
It's it's it comes to me. It comes in vain a little bit to
Mm-hmm.
me, in my opinion, because a couple of years back, she was all out and in the open on social media doing interviews about how she felt she deserved to cheat on her last husband because she
Mm-hmm.
was the breadwinner. Because she was married, if none of y'all know, she was married to a dude named Chris Howard. He was in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But she was the breadwinner in that marriage previously to D Wade, and she said that she felt entitled to cheat on him because she was the breadwinner. She was paying all the bills. She made all the money, and at this time, Gabby was in the height of her career, her acting career. So she very well so could have been the breadwinner. And I've honestly never heard of Chris Howard. I looked him up and I didn't see too many stats. But at the same time, like, to me, loyalty is everything. So I don't want you to feel just because you're paying all the bills in my house, which would never happen in my situation. But in the off chance it did, I don't feel like you think I don't want you to feel like you're validated or you're entitled to go do what you want to do out there in them streets. Because if you in the streets, you for the streets and you can be in the streets. So,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same, but this is the same woman that was talking about that a year or two ago, and now all of a sudden, oh nah, it's 50-50 in my career. Me and D Wade split these bills, and I'm actually kind of anxious as far as my financial situation because I'm not in the height of my career anymore, and I have to be a workaholic. And I have to do all of these things to be able to equal what D Wade is doing because of his career. Now he's the breadwinner, so it's a little bit different in my eyes because she flip flopped so crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of women these days in relationships don't have this same thought process of 50-50. They want the man to be the 100% breadwinner taking care of everything. And that's how relationships and dating is now with in modern sense. But the way the world right now, man, is a lot of couples have to at least bear some kind of financial responsibility in these relationships or in these marriages, because cost of living is going up, everything's expensive, and if you just bearing this whole thing on this man can get tired, so to speak, on these things. But that's another situation. How do you feel about Gabby and what she said?
I don't have an issue with it.
I don't have an issue with it either. I just don't like the fact that she kind of flip flopped in what she said. That's what that was my point.
I don't have
Yeah.
an issue with that either. The only problem I have with the quote unquote flip flopping is the reasoning for, or the consequences that she gets to have because she is the breadwinner, so to speak, or she did pay all the bills in the house. That's the only issue I have with it. Like you said, loyalty is everything. If you can't be loyal to me just because we have a union, or we are one, so to speak, or we are, um, what's the word I'm looking for, Sticks? We
Um,
are not polygamous. We are, damn, why I can't think of it right now. Anyway,
no,
because
I'm picking up what you're putting down though.
yeah, because we have agreed to be mutual to each other.
Monogamous.
Monogamous, thank you.
Yeah.
Because we have agreed to be mutual to each other, just because you bring the most money in the house or you're paying all the bills doesn't mean that you get to cheat on me. If that's the case, then a lot of men that have cheated before are justified in what they have done is based off of that logic. So
Mm-hmm.
you kind of put yourself into a corner when you say stuff like that. But as far
Right.
as her going back and forth, um, with being the breadwinner and then now going 50-50 with D Wade, I don't have an issue with that. What I do have an issue with is I think society has messed us up, as a whole when it comes to uh, how we are supposed to interact in the relationships, who's supposed to do what, the role, the role. Damn, why I can't think today? We both having issues thinking. We both having issues thinking today.
I
But
know,
anyway,
right?
the gender
Yeah.
roles in the relationship. We're stuck on who does what, why they do it, and who wears the pants and whatnot. What works for you in your relationship won't work for me in my relationship. If
100%.
I'm happy and if I'm fine with whatever we have agreed to do, then I don't need society to tell me or to justify why I'm doing it or why I'm not doing it. If me and my wife say, yeah, we're going to split the bills 50-50, and we're happy with us splitting the bills 50-50, then let us be happy. That's our business. It's nobody else's
100%.
business. I think the issue. This is what I'll say about this situation and what Gabrielle Union said. I think if it is a major issue, I think it is an issue because of what is going on or what has gone on with Dwayne Wade and his now, girl, Zaya, with
Mm-hmm.
that transition. And it really came to light when Gabrielle stepped into the relationship with Zaya and Dwayne Wade. And I want to say, I'm not going to say force that hand, but it seems that's what it seems like to the public is when she stepped in, all of this came to light, and now we want to try to villainize her. And
Mm-hmm.
again, we don't know that situation. We don't
Right.
know what was really going on. And so from that point on, anything she says seems disingenuous, and it seems like she's forcing and trying to put herself back into the limelight of Hollywood.
I can somewhat agree with that. And the other problem lies into is that we take too much stock into other people's situations.
Yep.
Mind your business. Mind your
Mind your
business.
business.
They business ain't your business. I don't care personally what I'm, we talking about it because we have the podcast and it's a hot topic at the moment. But I personally don't care if she don't pay none of the bills in the house. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like I
I mean,
don't.
they're both high income.
They're both here.
My bad, cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're good.
My bad, bro.
And just to make the lines point, they're both high income earners, so they can both take care of themselves if they needed to, or they can take care of the other one if they needed to. It's
Right.
cool, but at the same time, like mind your business. Don't take so
Right.
much stock into the. Don't try to mold your relationship on a celebrity's relationship. You ain't got that kind of money, and you ain't got those kind of privileges. Be who you
Yep.
are and do what you got to do that works best for your relationship so it can prosper and move forward to the future.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. My problem honestly was I deserve to cheat because I'm the breadwinner, but now it's no, it's 50-50. Me and D-Wade do this, and I'm so frustrated. Like, nah, that was my
Yeah.
problem. But in their relationship itself was, then do y'all
Yeah.
thing. 50-50 it
Right.
is, my nigga. Shit. Do your thing.
Right. So the big topic, one of the big topics of the week that we're going to discuss today is Ja Morant back in the news once again for
This
brandishing a gun uh, on Instagram. So Ja Morant, while in the car with his friends on Instagram Live, rapping a song, seen flashing a gun again. Sticks, how do you feel about the latest gun incident for Ja?
I just want Ja to stay out the way, man. Because as we talked about before, he's trying to portray a lifestyle that he didn't grow up in.
Mm-hmm.
He came from a 2-parent household, I won't say wealthy household, but upper class household, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Went to a private school. He's not that guy. Honestly, he's not that guy. But he has a lot of influence around him. I think he has a lot of yes men around him. And kudos to his homeboy that was driving the car and actually tried to keep him from showing that gun on camera. He
Mm-hmm.
tried his hardest. He didn't realize what was going on, but he tried to save his boy. But I think he has a lot of influence around him, a lot of yes men around him that make it harder for Ja to stay out the way. And from my viewpoint, if it was me, if I was Ja Morant, if I was on the verge of getting $233 million contract, if I was on the verge of that, I swear, and this is just my thought process, and I can't speak for Ja because Ja is his own person. But if it was me, I'm staying out the way at all costs, bro. Like I can't. I'm focusing on my craft. I'm focusing on basketball. I'm focusing on making the Grizzlies better, and that's all. That is my focus. Of course, I'm gonna go out, have fun, do things with my family and my friends, but I'm gonna keep people around me who know that I have something worth risking and something worth losing. But at the same time, man, like I just want Ja to stay out the way, bro, because you're losing Powerade now. You're on the verge of losing Nike. You've already lost $69 million because once this thing came out, you were taken off the All NBA list. So that was one of your incentives to get 69 million. So you're losing money with this charade that you're putting on. And I'm gonna call it a charade because this is not who he is. This is not
Yeah.
Ja. So that's my thoughts on it, bro. What you think? How do you feel about Ja and all these transgressions he's got going on?
I just think he has to be smarter. It's only been 2 months since the first gun incident that we saw, where he was in the strip club and had a gun. I don't have. I'll say this: I don't have an issue with him having a gun. I
At
really
all.
don't have an. I really don't have an issue with him flashing a gun, honestly, because if we are talking about the current climate that we're in, when major events or more traumatic events happen that deal with guns, it's always the back and forth of why we should have gun rights and why people should be able to have the ability to have guns. So if we're looking at simply if the central idea, the central issue at hand is the gun, I don't have an issue with it because in other incidences, the gun is not the issue, it's the person. So, with that being said, Ja has to be smart. I think in the first segment, the first time we talked about this again, which seemed like it was only yesterday, it was
Right.
2 months ago when we talked about this. I said Ja needs to be smarter because he hasn't realized who he is. If this was me and you, or this was anybody else of the status that we are, and we're not nobodies, but we're not Ja Morant, this would be looked at as, oh, they just having fun. They just doing what they do. We are a whole 10 plus years older than Ja. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So Ja is being the average 23-year-old. And that's no knock on Ja. The average 23-year-old, studies have shown, don't have the full developed prefrontal cortex that will allow them to make those intelligent decisions. It's not developed. The prefrontal cortex helps you to make decisions on the current situation with the current situation that you're in, moving in your life. Ja has obviously Ja is 23, so he can't. I'm not gonna say he can't, but making decisions based off of his current life is not his strong suit right now because his prefrontal cortex isn't completely developed. With that being said, he has to be smarter and understand, recognize who he is, so that he does not fall into this situation ever again. Because one time it's a mistake. Okay, Ja, let's slap you on the wrist. Let's let you know that you can't do this moving forward. Two times it's a coincidence. Okay, Ja, listen, now you did this again. And we're going to get into, I'm going to ask you this question in a second. We're going to have to, the punishment is going to have to be a bit more severe. If it happens again, Ja, that's a pattern, and
It's a
patterns
character flaw at
are,
that point.
yeah, that's just who you are. And
Mm-hmm.
so now we're really going to make an example of you. With that being said, Sticks, what the question I have for you is, what is the punishment that you think the NBA will put down this time? Because last time it was an 8 game suspension, and the Grizzlies had already suspended him for 3 games. And then when the NBA's punishment came down, they allowed that time to be implemented, that the Grizzlies put into it, to be implemented. So he really only served
A
5 games
5 game suspension. Mm-hmm.
from the NBA. No money was taken from him. He went to rehab, he said, for a week, which, if he did, he did, but I don't think he did. No, you need more than a week for whatever rehab it is, alcohol, uh, porn addiction, whatever the case is. You gotta have longer than a week. It's gonna take longer than a week to rehab. Anyway, what do you think the punishment is gonna be for Ja?
Just to go off of what you said a second ago, man, it's going to have to be a little bit of a greater punishment for Ja Morant, given the fact that, like you said, you made the mistake
Mm-hmm.
2 months ago. You apologized for it. You served your time, which I think was reasonable. I think the eight games was reasonable. Came back, balled out in the playoffs, and now in your off season, you're making the same mistakes. It's got to be a greater. It's going to have to be greater. I would say they probably maybe double the suspension. Maybe give him a 15 game suspension this time.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's really going to hurt him is the endorsements, because he just dropped a shoe with Nike, and Nike has now dropped his first Ja One. Just came out less than a month ago,
Right.
and now you're still doing the same dumb things that you did, that you were doing, that you said that you learned from, and that you weren't going to do again. Now you're still doing it. Now the biggest thing is going to be, like I said, losing Powerade, which he's already lost, possibly losing Nike and whatever other endorsements that he might have, because now this is looking like a pattern, like D'Lo said. It's looking like a pattern now. It's looking like you have a character flaw now that you clearly built over the past year and a half. Clearly. And
Yeah.
that goes back to what I said about influence. I think he's keeping the wrong people around him. And also to touch on what D'Lo said too, the prefrontal cortex. Lil Wayne, who we talked about in our small talk, he said he did an interview as well, and they asked him about Ja Morant, and he said, "Do you respect him? Do you expect him to be responsible?" You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because number one, he's still a young kid making a lot of money. He's a global superstar who is just low key just enjoying life. Like
Right.
his personal life has nothing to do with us. But the problem is that Ja is
It's
Ja.
who he is. Yeah,
It's
it's
who
who
he
he is.
is. It's who
Yeah.
Ja is, and everybody looks up to Ja, and Ja is looked at as a role model, so to speak, to some kids. Some kids now, this generation now, Ja Morant is their favorite basketball player. But
Right.
so it's one of those things where he just has to be a little bit smarter with the way he moves. But I think with the NBA and their punishment, I think it's going to be maybe double what they did last time. Say he had 8 games. Okay, we're going to suspend you for the first 15 games of the season, and we might fine you 10K for what you did, whatever. But he has to be smarter, man. He has to be smarter, because everybody in the world knows this ain't Ja's personality. This ain't what Ja
Mm-hmm.
was brought up around. This is not how he was raised. And now all of a sudden you want to be this thug. And you even had gang members calling him out on social media like, bro, you need to stop throwing up them signs, bro, because you don't know you don't know where you could be or who could be around, and kind of see that and be like, yo, what you own. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So like he's putting himself in danger by doing all of these things that he's surrounded by. He's a product of his environment and
His current environment.
his current environment. And
Yeah.
again, that just goes back to what I said, man. He just keeping the wrong folk around him, bad influences, yes men, that just are so happy to be around a superstar, and they're reaping the benefits from it. That they're just letting him do whatever he want to do. Yeah, Ja, that's cool. Flash the gun. Yeah, that's cool, man. Go to the strip club right after a loss. Go do in Denver. Do what you do, bro. Because we gonna reap the benefits from it because you throwing the money, you paying for everything you got. He just keeping too many people, bad influences around him, and he need to change that. He needs to change his current environment for sure.
So I'll address that last piece that you said first, and then I'll come back to what I think the punishment will be. Um, so if he does, which it seems that he does right now, if he does have those individuals that are just along for the ride and allowing him to do whatever he wants to do, not really hold him accountable, then when he loses it all, they lose even more. And the reason I say they lose even more because right now they're not doing anything, and it's perceived that I won't say they're not. I know for a fact, but it's perceived
Right.
that they're not doing anything. They're just along for the ride. Ja, all right, Ja, we just took a loss. Yeah, let's go to the strip club. Let's throw money. It's Ja's money for the most part that we know of that's
Mm-hmm.
doing that. So those individuals that are around him that aren't holding him accountable and saying, Ja, listen, bro, we used to do this, but we can't do this anymore. If they're not saying that, then yeah, he has to get rid of them. But like you said earlier, the one that was actually recording and tried to like move the camera real quick when they noticed he had a gun, maybe his team is trying to hold him accountable. Sometimes you can't control the person who hold or is seen as the boss of the group.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can't control them. Sometimes you can't say anything to him. Maybe he does have a team in his corner that is allowing him to, or is not, wanting him to be this person, but he just wants to do it. So then they're like, all right, well, I guess let's go along with it. It takes a special person to really be that asshole, so to speak. It's like, nah,
Mm-hmm.
bro, we not doing this. I don't care what you say. And then not only hold the person that is the bag holder accountable in the group, but also everybody else. They got to hold them accountable too. And it's like it's the second in command is usually the one that has the most power. Is usually the one that is the brains of the operation.
Mm-hmm.
And Ja needs that person. Ja needs a strong second in command of the group that's going to rally the troops and say, all right, listen, we messing up right now. Ja, you messing up right now. This ain't how I need to go. As far as the punishment, I think the NBA is going to send a strong message
Mm-hmm.
about this, so it doesn't happen again. You said you think they're going to double it. I think they may, if they double it, they're going to take a lot of his money.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't double it, I think he might get 25 plus games.
25 plus, got you.
And on top of him getting 25 plus games, they're probably going to put a rule in place similar to how when AI came into the league and he was wearing certain type of clothes and then
Mm-hmm.
everybody else was wearing certain type of clothes and David Stern put in this dress code, which was it wasn't called the AI rule, but it was dubbed the AI rule.
100%.
Um, I think they even put a rule in place along with whatever's already in place to make sure like stuff like this doesn't happen and that the NBA continues to have a good image amongst its fans, amongst the viewers across the world, across in America, and so that because the NBA and Adam Silver are pretty. I want to say I'm not gonna say liberal. They're pretty progressive in their thoughts, and
I agree.
I want to say that they are 100% on the left side of things when it comes to gun control, and
Mm-hmm.
this does not send a good message to that base that they are trying to control their athletes and are in favor of gun control. So I think they
Mm-hmm.
send a very strong message in this regard when it comes to Ja Morant. It's unfortunate, but again, I say Ja has to be smarter moving forward. We said this 2 months ago, but we're back
Mm-hmm.
here saying it again. Ja has to be smarter in this situation. Or in the situations that he puts himself in because of who he is, because of the status that he has as a professional athlete and the type of money that he has.
Mm-hmm.
If he was me and you, again, this would not be a big issue, but because it's Ja and
Mm-hmm.
because of the type of money he was set to make, they're going to make an example out of him. They love humiliating black celebrities and athletes, and so don't make it easy for them. Make it hard on them. Make them comb through to find stuff to humiliate you about. Don't make it easy for them.
100%, man. And just to go back, I think I'm a little bit more. I think I'm a little bit of opposed to what, because I don't think they're going to take a lot of money from him. So I think the NBA will look at what he's losing on the back end of this anyway from his endorsements, to where if they do give him a heavier suspension, I think it'd be more so games taking away what he loves, more so than him actually losing a bunch of money from the NBA. Honestly, because if they do fine him, I don't
Well,
think it's going to be heavy. But I would say I would be on the side of the fence with you as far as 25 games more so, like a heavier suspension as far as that's concerned. But as far as a fine, I think the NBA is, like you said, is a little bit more progressive in how they do things as far as the league. I think they'll look more into, okay, cool, he's already lost this endorsement. He lost this money already from not making it, being taken off the All NBA team. He's probably about to lose Nike. He don't need to lose no more money. So let's just take away what he loves and take away basketball and give him 25 plus games. That's what I'm thinking, but I could be
yeah,
wrong. We'll just have to
I
see.
I think that yeah, we'll have to see. You can rebuttal, but I think they'll wrap the suspension with without pay as well.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that. I can
Yeah,
see that. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
yeah. All right, so let's keep it within the NBA. As we said a couple weeks ago, the 2023 NBA playoffs have been spectacular this season, with some surprise
Spectacular.
teams making a lot of noise. But the headlines we are reading about and watching for the legacies that are being created or diminished in the finals matchups is starting as the finals matchups are starting to become clear. Six, what do you think, or who do you think the legacies? I'm sorry. What do you think the legacies of LeBron, Jokic, Tatum, and Butler are after these playoffs are done?
I think so. I think there's two people who are cementing a legacy, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it's one person whose legacy is already cemented, and I think it's
Mm-hmm.
one person whose legacy is stagnant. So
Okay.
I'm gonna start with the two people that I think is going to be cemented, which is Jokic and Jimmy Butler.
Okay.
Jokic, although I hate his game, I hate how unorthodox it is. I hate how sloppy it looks. I hate how ugly his game is on the court.
Yep.
But whenever you watch him play, and I haven't watched much Jokic this year because, of course, the Nuggets aren't nationally televised all the time.
Right.
Me being on the West Coast, I see more Lakers, I see more Clippers, I see more Portland because I'm right here, right below Oregon, anyway, or right above Oregon. I'm sorry, and I see a lot of those games on TV when I do watch basketball during the season. But the little bit that I have seen of Jokic, he is a phenomenal player, no matter how ugly his game is. And with him winning back-to-back MVPs the last 2 years and almost won a third straight, being the first one to do it since Larry Bird, which we talked about 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
He is if he is to win a NBA title, I think he will cement his. I think personally, and I'm not saying he's the greatest of all time center, but I think he will cement his legacy as one of the greatest all time centers to ever play the game of basketball. That's the first one. What? And I'm gonna let you rebuttal. What you think about that? How do you feel about that legacy for
So
Jokic?
yeah, we talked about Jokic 2 weeks ago, and we discussed him as we in the in the realm of him being one of the best centers of all time. At that time, I said that I didn't consider him one of the best centers of all time because being one of the greatest at if a position, but also just in general, is a combination of individual accolades and accomplishments as well as team accolades and accomplishments. And at that time, he was in contention, which we now know he lost
Mm-hmm.
the MVP race, but he was in contention, like you mentioned, to have or be named the MVP of the NBA for 3 years in a row. He lost that. But he's been playing phenomenal in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's been kind of up and down in these finals, but these conference finals, but his numbers still look pretty good. You know, when the game is finished. If he is to go on, which is looking like they're going to beat the Lakers, or they're up 3-0 right now
Mm-hmm.
in the Western Conference Finals. If he is to go on to the finals, and if they are to win that, and then ultimately, unless Jamal Murray continues to play how he's playing now, because damn, he's playing good.
He going off.
Um, if he is to win a championship and a finals MVP as well, I think that cements him. To me, it moves him up in the top five. I'm not going to say he's the greatest of all time by no means, because he still has work to do when it comes to that. But he is actually being able to watch Nikola Jokic play basketball more consistently. He does look very unorthodox doing stuff, but he is very good at
Very
what he
much so.
does.
Yeah.
So it changed my mind a little bit just watching him more. Um, and I think, yeah, the cement definitely isn't wet, but he is cementing his position as one of the best centers, top five for sure, to me. In my opinion, I'll make sure I say everything that needs to be said to make sure it's my opinion.
Facts.
um,
Facts.
in my opinion, of all time.
I agree. I agree. Now moving on to the next one, I think that the cement is kind of still wet. It's Jimmy B. Jimmy Himmy
Mm-hmm.
with the Jimmy or Jimmy Himmy, whatever they want to call him.
Mm-hmm.
Playoff Jimmy Butler is a thing, dog. Because
Mm-hmm.
although we all know Jimmy Butler is a great player, and he's been a great player for a lot of his career. First started off as a lockdown defender. Now he's an all around player for the Miami Heat, and he's kind of been that whenever he was in Philly, whenever he was in Milwaukee for that 1 year, when he was in Philly for that 1 year, he was a team leader and he was an all around basketball player.
Minnesota.
Huh?
Minnesota.
Minnesota. That's what I'm going to say. Minnesota. Yeah, you're right. Minnesota. But playoff Jimmy is a thing because it seems like, for whatever reason, it seems like that Jimmy Butler be trolling when it comes to the season. But whenever it comes to playoff time, Jimmy Butler is outstanding, like averaging 30 points a game, 37 and 7 throughout the playoffs, and carrying his team as far as he can go. And it's on Jimmy's shoulders. And he's got right now an 8th seed Miami Heat going against a 2 seed Celtics team that everybody thought the Celtics was going to come into this. Nobody thought Miami was going to get to this point, number one, and then get into the Eastern Conference Finals and going against the Celtics. Everybody thought the Celtics was going to landslide Miami, but
Yep.
not
And we
whenever
even said it.
Jimmy. We even said it
Yeah,
when we
we
did
said whoever
we did our
wins the
predictions.
Philly. Yeah. I mean, it's still early. I mean, it's only 2-0 as of right now. They play
Right.
today. Cut you
Yep.
off, my bad.
Now you good.
But you know, it looks like they have full control of this series. So
It
we
looks like
said
it.
whoever wins the Philly series, Philly Boston series, is probably going to come out of the East, and
It's not
Miami's
looking
sitting
like
there.
that right now, but Jimmy is because Miami. If Jimmy got something to do with it, if Jimmy got something to say about it, bro, it's not happening. But Jimmy has been balling. If Jimmy gets to the championship and wins it, I think he will be cemented as one of the I won't say one of the greatest of all time, but it will boost his legacy so much as one of the best basketball players in the history of the game too. What you think about Jimmy?
So I think if Jimmy is to come out the East and if he is to win a championship as well as be I mean, you would assume he's going to be the Finals MVP if the Miami Heat are winning the championship. I don't see anybody else really being the Finals MVP of that or the MVP of that team unless Bam or Duncan Robinson go off. But Jimmy is by far the best player on that team or the leader of that team for sure. So if he
Mm-hmm.
comes out the East and win the championship, I think it definitely makes him a Hall of Famer.
I
I think
believe
right
so
now
too, 100%.
he's on a cusp of being a Hall of Famer or not. Because he doesn't. Let me finish my thought. He's on the cusp of being a Hall of Famer. It's not really a guarantee that he'll be a Hall of Famer. But if he comes out the East and wins with the 8th seed
With the
Miami Heat
eighth
team
seed.
and is the Finals MVP, this cements his Hall of Fame career. People are comparing him to Dirk Nowitzki if he is to win this in that playoff run they had where they beat Miami that year in 2011. I don't think he should be compared to Dirk Nowitzki because in Dirk's case, at least he had a NBA or league MVP, whereas Jimmy
Mm-hmm.
has never been in consideration. I don't think, to my recollection,
Not to my
of
recollection.
being
Yeah.
a MVP. But the playoff run itself, I can see it being compared to Dirk Nowitzki.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Dirk is number 4 or 5, 6, something like that. He's up there top 10 in scoring of all time. He
Mm-hmm.
has a league MVP as well, and a finals MVP, and an NBA championship. So I say all that to say I don't think that makes Jimmy the greatest of anything, really, but it does cement his Hall of Fame career,
I agree, man. And like you said,
presuming
and
they
I
win
would
the final MVP.
100%. And I think, and just like Delon said, man, he doesn't have those individual awards, but if he just to kind of go off of what he said, if he does get that championship, which is a team award, which Delon alluded to, it's a combination of individual and team. So if he does get that team award with the championship and the individual award with the Finals MVP, he's been on multiple all defensive teams. He's been in contention a couple of times for Defensive Player of the Year, but never won it. But he has some individual accolades that he can lay on. But if he gets those two things, then put those two things together, Hall of Fame career for sure, 100% for Jimmy. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
The next person who I think is the legacy is stagnant is Tatum,
Mm-hmm.
because his career is still young. His career is still very, very young. He made it to a finals last year. Unfortunately, Steph Curry was on the team that he lost to, unfortunately.
Right. Right.
But made it to a finals last year, and he's he's in the Eastern Conference Finals again this year with the Boston Celtics. And to make it to another finals would be it's like we're just waiting on Jason Tatum to win it, or we're waiting on Jason Tatum to take that next step as a superstar. I think he's a star in the league. I don't think he's a superstar. And I've seen
Mm-hmm.
a lot of conversations around how many superstars is it in the league. I think it's like 5 or 6 maybe superstars in the league right now. Jason Tatum is
Yeah.
not one of them, but he's on his way to becoming a
He's
superstar. He just
budding.
needs he's definitely budding into a superstar in the league. And I think it's stagnant. He just needs that extra thing to push him over the top to NBA superstar. And I think him winning the championship would do that, and it would unstagnate his legacy and move it to the next level. What you think about Jason Tatum?
I think if they lose this series in the Eastern Conference Finals, with them being the 2 and Miami being the 8th seed, I think it severely stains. Okay, I shouldn't say severely. I think it stains Jason Tatum's legacy, and he'll have to do outrageous things team wise in order to unstain that legacy. It's unfortunate that we're in this era where, as individuals, team accolades weigh so heavy on your legacy, but that's just that's where we're in. So I agree. I think his legacy is stagnant right now just because he is so young and he does have time to, because he's only 24, 25.
24, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So he still has a lot of time. If he plays another 14 years, like LeBron, then and be 38, then he has a lot of time to win championships, to add to the individual accolades, to get a league MVP. If he wins a championship, finals MVP. So he still has time.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can't get out of this series as the 2nd seed and lose to the Miami Heat, who are the 8th seed, I think it stains his career, and he'll have to do outrageous things moving forward. Because I mean, he's streaky.
Yeah, 100.
As
percent
we saw, the Philly series, he didn't play great, but then Game 7 when they needed it most, he had 51 points and looked like he could throw the hoop was an ocean to him.
Mm-hmm.
But then now he's not playing bad in the Eastern Conference Finals, but the team isn't winning. He's averaging like 30 points or 32 points in this series, but the team's not doing well. And like I said, it's unfortunate that we as fans have made a person's legacy so heavily tied on the
Team
team
success.
accolades,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just where we are. And I think because I know where we're about to go to LeBron. I
Mm-hmm.
think that we need to blame those that came before LeBron, the Jordans, the Kobe's, the Barkleys, the Shaqs, those individuals we need, or the Malones, all those individuals, we need to blame them for how we view a great player or not, because now if you don't have a championship, you can't be considered a great player. It seems like, even though,
Right.
like we talked about with Jokic, 2 MVPs, putting up crazy numbers as far as for a center, and he's not really considered in the eyes of many. I won't say, because we're getting comments about how good he is.
Mm-hmm.
You need to watch Nuggets games and whatnot.
Right. Exactly.
But I would say, in most people's opinion, these two individuals, Jokic and Jason Tatum, while they are great individuals, because they don't have those team accolades, they're not superstars. And Jokic is probably a superstar, but
Yeah. No. Yeah. For sure.
we don't want him to be a superstar.
Yeah, the public does not want Jokic to be a superstar, and although he is 100%, he's one of the two people that we're talking about right now that are superstars in the NBA.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, I think the team accolade with Boston, like I said, they made it last year. They're on they can possibly make it again this year, and it just sucks that, like D'Lo said, man, that one a singular person on the team who is the star of the team. Jason Tatum is the star of the
Mm-hmm.
Boston Celtics, between him and Jaylen Brown. But Jason
Jaylen
Tatum
Brown.
is definitely the top. Who?
No, I said Jaylen Brown.
Oh, Jaylen Brown. Yeah. Now he is the star of the team, but you need all. It's 5 people on the court with 4 other people on the court with Jason Tatum. You need all 4 of the people to do their role and to play their part and handle their responsibility for the team to win. It's not just Jason Tatum going 1-on-5 and the Celtics are going to win the basketball game. So,
Right.
but like you said, we do need to blame them. That they blame the ghost of NBA past, because
Mm-hmm.
although, say, Charles Barkley didn't win a championship, but he's one of the greatest players of all time. Karl Malone,
Mm-hmm.
John Stockton, these guys who were at the top of the league every single year whenever they were playing, but not every year, because whenever Karl Malone got to the Lakers,
I would argue that
but
statement.
what's your argument?
I would argue that Charles Barkley is not considered one of the greatest of all time because he doesn't have a ring. Because if he had
That's what I was saying though. That's what I was saying though. He's still one of the greatest players of all time, but we consider him not to be because he didn't win a championship.
Gotcha.
That's what I was saying. So you gotta look, individual accolades and team accolades I think should be separate. But since you're on that team, you're gonna reap the benefit of winning that championship because you were on that championship team and you played a part to win that championship. So I understand why it's lumped together, but the individual somebody can be one of the greatest players of all time without the team success, if that makes sense. Without the team success. Now, moving on to our boy, who we find out a way every single week to talk about on the podcast, is our boy Bron. I think Bron's legacy is cemented already. I mean, anytime that you got somebody who's being considered the greatest of all time and is in that argument for the greatest of all time, has already cemented their legacy. LeBron, even if he gets swept, even if the Lakers get swept, and I say, you see how I said he gets swept and it's a team thing? Even if the Lakers get swept against the Nuggets tomorrow night, that doesn't stain LeBron's legacy at all to me. LeBron has already won 4 championships. In my opinion, you're gonna say all the right things to make sure everybody understands this is just our opinions. But in my opinion, it doesn't stain LeBron's legacy at all if he gets swept by the Nuggets tomorrow, because he's already won 4 championships. He's already got multiple MVPs. He's already won multiple finals MVPs. He's been on multiple all NBAs, all defensive teams. He's got the resume for one of the greatest of all time players. I'm not going to say the, because I know what the comment section going to be like, but he's got the resume for one of the greatest of all time players in the NBA,
he's
in
an
NBA
all-time
history.
Leading scorer of the league.
You see what I'm saying? He has everything. What else does the LeBron need? A 5th championship will put him on par with the Kobe's of the world and having the fifth ring. But at the same time, he has what he needs to have that resume to be considered one of the greatest players of all time. So LeBron's legacy is already cemented. He's on a path right now where I'm gonna play a year with my son. I'm getting. That's what I see when I watch him on the basketball court. I feel like you can kind of tell LeBron the 38 is catching up to him a little bit in this series. You can tell that he's kind of lost a little bit of a step, and that's our boy. He's still averaging 23, 7, and 7 in the playoff and in this series. So it's not like he's still not a productive player in the NBA or in this series or in the playoffs. But I think he's just on a path where it's just like, I've done everything I needed to do. I'm considered 1A, 1B, depending on who's arguing. So it's like, what else do I need? Like, what else do I need? What you think about LeBron?
I mean, in my opinion, I believe his career, his legacy is cemented as well. But I'm going to argue what the public is going to argue. This is going to severely stain LeBron's career if he is, in fact, to get swept. Even if he gets the gentleman's sweep of 5 games, it's going to stain his career just because he is the only individual in the history of basketball, shit, for the history of sports to still be ridiculed and praised, or whatever the case is, at the age of 38. I guess Tom Brady, you could say Tom Brady,
A
put
little
him
bit,
in
yeah.
that category as
Facts.
well. To be heavily scrutinized and heavily ridiculed for the success or the not success of the team when he's in year 20 of his career. So I think if LeBron is going to, if they do lose, if he doesn't get to the finals, if they don't win the championship, this stains his career, his legacy, and he'll have to come back again next year and try to win a championship and maybe even be league MVP or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's public opinion. My opinion again is no. I don't think it stains his career. LeBron has done everything he needs to and more in his career in the NBA. He's came into the league with high expectations. He's met and surpassed those expectations. So to me, no, this doesn't stain his career. He's done everything he needs to do to do it. It just looks bad late in his career, still being such a high volume and heavily counted on player for the Los Angeles Lakers to lose or not win the championship. But we have to remember that they are the 7th seed, even though that trade at midseason or the trade deadline drastically changed the momentum and the trajectory of the season. They are the 7th seed. So they don't have home court advantage and never have home court advantage in the playoffs. Even when they played the Warriors, who were the 6th seed, they didn't have home court advantage. So no, I don't think it hurts his career, but we know public opinion is going to say different. So we'll go with that, or I'll go with that. Yes, it's going to stay in his career.
Yep. So quick prediction, D-Lo, since we done talked about the 4 people whose careers are cemented, stagnant, or going on the rise.
Yep.
Who's winning the championship, bro?
If the Nuggets keep playing how they're playing right now, it's going to be the Nuggets, and I say it'll be a toss-up depending on which Jamal Murray shows up, between Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic as the Finals MVP. Mm-hmm. Now, with that being said, so my opinion is I think the Nuggets are going to win. 2 weeks ago, I said I think the Nuggets are going to win, but I want the Lakers to win. So that's my call. But I could see the Miami Heat winning as well with a team effort, and playing lockdown defense against the Nuggets, and Jimmy Butler being the MVP. But my pick is, I'll just say it one more time, the Nuggets, and a toss-up for MVP between Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, depending on which Jamal Murray shows up.
For sure. I think,
what about you?
As much as I would love a Lakers-Celtics championship, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. The Nuggets are going to close out this series in the next, either tomorrow or Wednesday, depending on what Lakers team show up tomorrow. And I think today Jimmy Butler is going to. The Boston and Miami series is a little bit different because those are 2 evenly matched teams. The Nuggets far outmatch the Lakers. I
wouldn't actually say that.
They do, bro. They do, bro. Just looking at that, look at the court, bro. We talked about it yesterday when we were watching the game, dog. Nobody is banging with the big body of Jokic. No,
But
uh,
Jokic is not really a
my,
banger though.
Michael Porter Jr. is too tall for a lot of those people trying to guard him. Murray is going
Mhm.
off. He's killing Schroeder and whoever's guarding him too. Even Bruce Brown coming off the bench and killing people. They are far overmatched, bro. Just looking at that game, the Nuggets far overmatched the Lakers. The only people that's
I don't.
going off for the Lakers is AD and LeBron. That's it, dog. Nobody else
Well,
is
no,
handling them.
I
You can
think
look at
Reeves
it and
has played
see
well. I think Reeves
Reeves
has
has
played
played
well
well, but
this
he ain't
series.
guarding nobody.
I think Reeves has played well this series. I think the X factor is Jamal Murray. I think
Yeah,
this is my opinion. I think the experience of Darvin Ham has shown itself. He's done well these playoffs,
I can see that.
um, but his adjustments. So we thought we found something, or the Lakers thought they found something by putting Rui on Jokic and letting AD roam. Well, that hasn't fared well because now they're just saying, okay, well you got a quote unquote answer for Jokic, but you don't have an answer for Jamal Murray. And in
Mm-hmm.
crunch time, the defense has fallen apart because you have pieces together that haven't really played together often
Mm-hmm.
in the playoffs or just in general. So it's a lot of miscommunication. I'm going to go on record and say a lot of the times when somebody is getting a wide open layup, it's LeBron's fault because he's watching. He's roaming, but his eyes aren't. He can't see his man in his peripheral, so they get away from him because he's watching the ball and trying to help where he can help. But um, I don't think they're. I say all that to say I don't think they're outmatched. I just think they're being outcoached. And the Nuggets, after that drought that they put on the Phoenix Suns, realized, oh man, we can really do something. And from that point on, I mean, they've been
You think
playing
they're
well the
hungrier?
whole
You think
playoffs.
they're hungrier than the Lakers?
I think they smell it. Yeah, I think they smell it. And the Lakers just expect because they made it this far that, and they have LeBron, they have AD, that the Nuggets are going to lay down, and that has not been the case. In crunch
Has
time, the
not been the
Nuggets,
case.
like, they've stepped up and done what they need to do. And then I think,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, with the Miami Boston series, I do think they're pretty evenly matched. They're
Mm-hmm.
similar stature team with height.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is, I would say Boston has two superstars or two stars, whereas Miami only has Jimmy Butler. So, but I mean, you could put Bam in there, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't put Bam and Jalen Brown in the same sentence.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either. But
Yeah. So,
so yeah, so I think it's gonna be a Nuggets, and I think it's gonna be a Nuggets in Miami finals. And
mhm.
as much as I want to say Miami, because I want Jimmy to get that joint, bro. I want Jimmy to get it because he has played so phenomenally. He's literally carried his team through this playoff run. I want him to get it just to have that Cinderella story, but at the same time, for an eighth seed to win a championship, I don't even know if that's even happened before. I haven't even looked into it honestly, but for an eighth seed to win a
Nah.
championship in the NBA, which has probably never happened before, I want that to happen for Jimmy. But I think it's going to be a Nuggets. I think Jokic is going to get his first championship. He'd be cemented as one of the greatest centers of all time, and he's most likely going to win the Finals MVP. That's my prediction.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
All right, so the San Antonio Spurs have won the right to the first draft pick of the 2023 NBA draft, and inevitably will draft the one of the most anticipated selections in quite some time in Victor Wembanyama.
Mm-hmm.
Six, what are your thoughts on how teams are selected to be the first pick, and what are your thoughts on how you think when Wembanyama, hope I'm saying his name right, will
Wembanyama, I think
pan
you're saying
out
it
in the
right.
league? Yeah,
I'm gonna
will
just
pan
call it.
out in the league.
I'm just gonna call him Victor W. I'm gonna call him Victor W. for the
Okay,
rest of this segment because I ain't trying to
okay.
say that too many times. I'm
Yeah,
tongue tied.
Wembanyama.
But Wembanyama, that's his name. But Victor
Yep.
W. I think
Yep.
Victor is. I think so. The first part of your question, I think there's a lot of conspiracies going around with the NBA draft itself, and how for some years now the draft has been rigged, and
Hmm.
a lot of people point to one specific draft was whenever Patrick Ewing was drafted, and they say that the envelope was in a freezer so it can be cold to the touch whenever David Stern reached into the pot for the envelopes, and they also say that just in case it did warm up under the lights and in the pot for whenever he reached in, he didn't feel the warmth. They also said that they creased one of the edges of the envelope that had the Knicks pick in there, so he can feel that creased edge and pull out the Knicks. A lot of conspiracy theories also say that a lot of the reason why the draft lottery is fixed is because a lot of these like Victor or like LeBron or like Patrick Ewing or these guys who are prodigies, or coming in as one of the highest anticipated, the most anticipated or highly anticipated people are coming to the NBA. They need to go to bigger market teams or teams with better organizations to be able to build around that person. And a lot of people say that that's one of the conspiracies, and it was between the Rockets and the Spurs that have the biggest odds to get the first overall pick. It was a gentleman, I sent Delon the picture. I mean, not the picture, but the post or the reel on Instagram, where he posted it 4 hours before the draft and predicted that the San Antonio Spurs were going to get that first round pick because San Antonio is a bigger market than Houston, and they have a better organization and better coach than what Houston has at the moment. Now we are going to get into it in a second, but
San
Houston just hired
Antonio,
another coach.
yeah. I didn't mean to stop you. I would definitely argue, is San Antonio a bigger market than Houston? I would say hell no.
As
But
far
go
as
off.
far as well, I guess whenever they say market, they say fan base, I suppose. But
Okay,
I'm just going
I
off of
got
what
you.
I'm reading, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and when I and another thing I say in regards to market is team success over the past decade. Of course, the San
Mhm.
Antonio Spurs have had more success than the Houston Rockets over the past decade, right?
Right.
So, and they're on a little bit of a decline now with a lot of their bigger stars and your Tony Parkers and your Tim Duncans and Manu Ginobili's. They've retired over the past few years, and you know Pop ain't the same coach as he was because he doesn't have that same talent on his team, and he was able to build around those that big three that he had to win those championships in the past decade. But now they're in a little bit of a decline, and they're one of the worst teams in the NBA. I believe, I don't believe this, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist myself, but there's some truth to some conspiracies. And with that being said, the Spurs got that first pick. Now, as far as Victor is concerned, I think he'll be a good player in the NBA. He is a 7'2", he's a 7'2" guy, very, very slim build, which he's going to have to put some weight on eventually because he's a skinny cat. But
Right.
he's a 7'2" guy with guard like talent, and it's kind of a la what they were talking about with Anthony Davis when he came into the league, because he was a guard whenever he was younger, and then he just shot up to 6'10", and he still had those same kind of skills being a guard when he was a little bit shorter. So it's kind of a la that kind of story. And I'm not saying that they're comparing him to AD. I'm just saying that with the skill set. But he is definitely a generational talent. And looking at his stats, because he's in France, so looking at his stats over the past season, he's been averaging 25 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks a game, a couple of assists. But he's the focal point of that team, and he's the guy
Mhm.
that's going to make or break whether or not that team wins or not. But he is definitely a generational talent. And I think he is one of those guys who is going to be, if he pans out the way he should, where everybody's expecting him to, and honestly, if he puts on some weight, I think he'll be a beast. To be perfectly honest with you, what you feel about those two questions you asked? How you feel about the draft lottery? How do you feel about Victor?
So going off of what you sent me the other day and talking about the draft being rigged, it would only make sense if it is rigged, because the NBA is a business, and
Mm-hmm.
like all businesses, you want to make sure that your best markets have the best products or have the
Mm-hmm.
most products, so to speak. But in this case, it would be the best product. And
Mm-hmm.
so, to me, if you have a decent market that is struggling and falling from graces, it only makes sense to make sure that that market has a star, or what is the person that is seen to be the star coming into the league, go into that market above all the other smaller market teams or
Mm-hmm.
poorly ran teams of the league. So that it only makes sense to me. Now, the flip side of that is, if the draft is rigged, going off of conspiracy theories, then that plays into what we've talked about all year but never really discussed on this podcast, is the
Mm-hmm.
script. The script
The
started with the
script.
NFL, but But now it's going all over the place. Everybody talks about the script. And so, you have conspiracy theories all the time that say that professional sports in general, not just professional wrestling, is rigged because it's all about the circus, or the Roman times. You want to distract the public from knowing what's going on with their leaders and what's going on in the world. Then you send them to the Colosseum to watch the 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 Catholics fight against the lion, or them killing each other and whatnot. So if the draft is rigged, then I'm not. If that is true, again, it's conspiracy theory. But if it is true, then it's not far fetched to think that games aren't rigged here and there. And if games are rigged, then that infuriates me, because I no longer want to watch basketball, because it takes the or any sport from that for matter. Because it takes the essence of what sports is all about out of it. But I mean, that's a lot of pieces to have choreographed in order to rig something. I mean, I know the refs play a big part in everything when it comes to professional sports, but to talk about the draft, get back to the draft specifically, I can understand why the NBA would rig the sport or rig the draft, because of trying to make sure that their best markets have the best talent.
Yeah.
Now, as far
Yeah.
as Victor Wembanyama, I know I said that right because I enunciated all those words, all of those syllables.
Right.
I think I don't want to be like most pundits that said Kevin Durant wouldn't be a good player, NBA player, when he came out because of his stature. But it's hard not to fall into that category again. Um, he is very slight. He does have some exceptional skills. He is 7'2", playing like a guard, so it's hard not to. But he is small, so it's hard not to say he's going to struggle in the league when he's been playing professionally in France. He's in France right now. Yeah, he's been playing professionally in France for some time now. And as we've seen with those players that have been playing professionally across the water and then come to the league, that they do pretty well. Luka
A la
Doncic,
Luca. Yep,
uh,
exactly.
a la Luka Doncic, a la Nikola Jokic, a la Dirk Nowitzki, a la Tony Parker. So I mean, we've seen Manu Ginobili. We've seen individuals come over that played professional across the water overseas, that might not fit the ideal build of what an NBA player looks like, but they grow into their bodies and they turn out to be great players. So I don't want to fall into the pundit, what media pundits back in the day with Kevin Durant said because of his size that he wouldn't be good, and now Kevin Durant has been widely considered, for the better part of his career, one of the best players in the game. I don't want to fall into that. I will say, I think it is going to be hard for him to live up to the expectations of what he can be, though, or what he should be, what people think he should be, because he is highly touted right now. Everybody's saying he's the savior of the NBA, that he's going to do this, he's going to do that. There's only one person, and we talked about him earlier, that I know of that had such high expectations coming into the league, and he's met and surpassed those expectations. And you can say what you want to about LeBron James, but he most definitely met and surpassed the expectations of who he was supposed to be coming into the league. That is
100%.
that's a tough task to do. You can't. I don't think many people can do that. I don't think many people can meet and surpass the expectations that have been placed upon them. And it takes a special individual to go through the trials and tribulations that you have to go through and still overcome them. Now, or just take all of the beating that you get, or the hate that you'll get because of what the expectations will be. Because one small little mishap or one small mistake, and everybody's at your neck. Oh, I knew you wasn't great. I knew you couldn't do this. I knew you couldn't do that. You got to be really strong minded to deal with all that. So, so I say he won't meet those expectations, but that's not to say he won't be a good NBA player. He still could be a good NBA player, but I don't expect him to meet and surpass the expectations that have been placed upon him.
Yeah, and by all means, I want, and I said I share the same sentiment as you. And by all means, I want Victor to prove us wrong. I want him to be that guy.
Right,
But like he said, like Delon said, man, it's hard to come into the league with such high expectation and constantly every year for 20 years get such high and heavy criticism and still carry all of that on your shoulders and still go out and play basketball with no hiccups that we know of,
right,
that we had that we
right,
know of, with no hiccups that we know of, and raise a family, have a prosperous NBA career, do everything that you're doing in your community, and still live up to the expectations that you had whenever you were coming into the NBA. And like Delon said, man, Victor is touted as the NBA savior and who's going to save the league. That's the highest of the high expectation, dog. So like
right.
nobody can expect, we can't sit here and expect Victor Wembanyama to save the league. We can't expect him to do that. We can only expect him to do what he's supposed to do, go out there on the court and show where he show improve. And if he far exceeds those expectations, great career for him. But I think he's going to be an
Right.
awesome and amazing basketball player. I have no doubt about that. And like Delon said, man, we gotta kind of get out of that that Kevin Durant mindset. Like, dog, that dude came in damn near 7 foot and frail. And that's what
Right.
Victor Wembanyama is doing. Same exact thing. But if he can do what KD has done, great career, bro. 100% great
Great
career.
career. Exactly. It's just he
100%
has
great
more
career.
expectations than KD does. So I'm
100%.
going to say he's not going to live up to those expectations. But if he has a KD-esque career, or if he has a career anywhere close to that, yeah, he's had a great career.
Great career.
All right, so last month, Ime Udoka made news as he was named the head coach of the Houston Rockets. Undoubtedly, there has been murmurs about the Rockets' decisions to make Udoka their next head coach. So, Sticks, how do you feel about Ime and his head coaching position with the Houston Rockets?
So we've talked about Ime about 3 or 4 times on the channel. One of those channels being one of our best channel, best video on the channel. But it was talking about that whole situation that happened over in Boston. And
Mm-hmm.
back then, when we talked about Ime, we talked about how how he definitely deserved a second chance. Of course, he's going to be punished for his transgressions and everything that he did while he was with Boston. Having that affair with that young lady. Um, but we definitely said that he deserved a second chance, and he is getting his second chance right now with Houston. Now, the thing that I want to make sure that I point out, and this is just my opinion, and this is just something that I wanted to state, is that I hope that the court of public opinion doesn't. I'm hoping that everything that happened in Boston eventually fizzles, because this man is getting a second chance at his coaching career. It was his first chance in Boston. Yeah, he effed it up. Yeah, he did what he did, but he does deserve the second chance that he's getting here in Houston. I just hope the court of public opinion stays off his back about what he did do and allow that man to move forward and change his ways and take this team the same way that he took that Boston Celtics team, because it honestly makes it how can I say this without sounding redundant? It makes no sense for us as the public to, just like we talked about at the beginning of the episode, mind your business. Mind your business. It's none of our business what that man does behind closed doors. Did it come out publicly? Yes. Did Boston handle it the right way as far as how they brought all the information out? Me and D'Lo said in that episode back in the day, no, they didn't handle it the right way, but they made sure that everybody knew what was going on and what was going to happen to Udoka moving forward. Now that he's in Houston, as long as he keeps his nose clean, and as long as he picked this team had was tied for the worst record in the NBA this past season. As long as Udoka makes progress with this team, keeps his nose clean, or at least if he does do anything, which I hope he doesn't, just make sure you do it in your own private time, my boy. But just make sure that you're doing what you need to do with Houston, and making sure that team gets better, and making sure that team gets to where what your plans are with this organization. Now, a lot of there's a lot of things going around too, that what we talked about in earlier segments about Udoka was that he's had this people were saying that he's had this problem with every organization that he's been in. Houston needs to be a clean organization, Ime. Houston needs to be a clean organization. You a man, you're gonna do what you do, but just make sure it's not with the Houston Rockets organization, bro. But I'm glad that he got this next opportunity, because he definitely deserved it. And I think that Ime, with his defensive prowess and the way that he coaches, he's a no nonsense coach, which we talked about before. He's a no nonsense coach. He knows how to how to rally the troops and get them to follow his lead. And I think that Houston is going to be a better team than they were in the past couple of seasons. D'Lo, what you think?
So you already said we both agreed that the Boston Celtics handled that situation entirely wrong. You already said that we agreed that he deserved a second chance, which he almost got with the Brooklyn Nets. I believe they were on the way to finalizing a deal with him, and then for whatever reason, the situation was too fresh, or whatever the case was, they decided not to sign him as their head coach. Ultimately, giving the job to Jacques Vaughn. He is getting a second opportunity now with the Houston Rockets. I'm glad he's getting this opportunity because, like you said, he needs a second chance. Everybody messes up in life. We all fall short of where we're supposed to be. We all fall short of glory, to be biblical. But we all deserve second chances. And with this second chance, he has the ability to take a team that is kind of similar to the Boston Celtics team, other than they don't have that de facto star on the team. We pretty much knew Jason Tatum 2 years ago was, a star in the league. He wasn't what he is now, but we knew he was a star in the league. Houston doesn't really have that, but they have the same type of team. It's a young team. They have some, one or two pieces here and there, and they could be in playoff contentions. I'm not going to say they're going to be in the NBA Finals, because that's a tough task in any regard. Any franchise you take over in any sport, to say that you are 100% going to the NBA Finals, or you're going to the championship game of that league, that if you
Especially
say that,
going from 19 win team to NBA Finals is kind of crazy. But I ain't mean to cut you off. But go ahead. Yeah.
No, all good. But to say that, though, that's a tall order. But they definitely can make it to the playoffs. They showed, the last part of the year, that they could be a good team by beating the type of teams that they were beating. They beat the Lakers after the trade deadline. They beat the Oklahoma City Thunders, who was a playoff team. They weren't a great team, but they were a playoff team. They beat the Minnesota Timberwolves, I believe, after at the end of the year. So they have what they need to be a good team. I just don't think the coaching was a right fit, or whatever it was. They just weren't a good team when it all was boiled down, but all came down to it. So I'm glad Ime is getting this opportunity. I think that winning will cure it all. So when he gets to the point of coaching, I think it'll be a lot of chaos, a lot of murmuring around him, around the franchise. The media, the public is not going to let this go. There, you have your different camps, as with everything. One camp, they should have put the woman's name out there along with them. They should have did this. They should have did that. He didn't really do anything wrong per se, except for the morality of the situation. But the Boston Celtics handled it wrong. You have another camp that's going to say, or that is saying, well, he was married, or he was in a relationship with Nia Long, and he went about it the wrong way. He should have never put his power into question by having that relationship with that woman. So it's definitely going to be a lot of turmoil and a lot of chaos around the Houston Rockets organization, at least initially. But if Ime can be Ime, which it seems like he's trying to turn over a new page and be the coach and get back to the life that he wanted prior to all of this scandal being released, and they can win, it'll start to die down. Now, if it doesn't, they continue to be the franchise that they were this year, which, if you're being realistic, you could probably expect it to be a little bit. I mean, they do have the 4th and the 20th pick this year, so they could get somebody outstanding
and trying to trade up for a higher pick with that 20th too. from what I saw.
Right. So
Yep.
that could change the whole trajectory of the team depending on who they get. But you shouldn't expect them to be a good team this year. But they'll definitely. I think they should win more than 19 games. But if they don't, then the chaos will continue. The stories will continue to say, "Oh, see, they gave him this opportunity, and then just because of who he was as a coach, and still not do anything, and the team can't handle all of the turmoil, all of the chaos, all of the buzz that's going around about their coach, and not being focused on their game." So, I'm glad he got the opportunity.
Hmm.
Winning will cure all, so hopefully he's winning next year, and this story can die down, and we can move on to something else and stay out of Ime's business.
100%, man. And it's funny you said, and that's a good point that you said too about how the Rockets team is very, very similar to what the Celtics team was to whenever he was the head coach of the team. It's because they have two young stars. Boston had Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. The Rockets have Jalen excuse me, Jalen Green and Jabari Smith, two really, really young
Mhm.
players who are really good players, not stars in the league yet, but up and
Right.
coming stars, up and coming players in the league that can become stars in the league. And if they do the right thing with this fourth pick, which I think they need a big man, power forward center,
Hmm.
honestly, myself. But if they do the right thing with the fourth pick and they actually trade up to get a higher pick with that 20th pick that they have in the first round as well, and get something with possibly within the lottery and get another key piece to the team, I think that team can be very, very good. And it's funny that, it's those two sides of the coin that D'Lo talked about, where if he's winning and they do better than they did last year, all that murmuring dies down. But if they're the same team that they were last year, all those numbers are gonna get louder. They're gonna turn the volume up on those numbers, and it's all of the backlash and everything is gonna come right back again. So, like D'Lo said, man, I personally hope I'm glad that he got the position, and I think with the type of coach that he is, this team is going to improve. I mean,
Hmm.
to keep it 100, it's not. Well, I ain't gonna say that because the NBA is a different type of league. Like it's the highest level that you can get to in your professional career as a basketball player. But from 19 games to 30 games, right? They win it, right? So if he wins more than 19 games, even if it's, well, I can't say if it's 20 because it's about the same, but if they
Right.
do better than they did last year in the 23-24 season, I think he's going to be everything is going to be washed clean, possibly, my opinion. Everything's going to be washed clean, and I think people are going to be able to move on from his transgressions in Boston. So, congratulations to Ime Udoka. I hope you do very, very well. Make sure you do well. Make sure you have some influence on those picks. And if you do have some influence, brother, make sure you pick well because y'all need a front court, dog. Y'all need a
Yeah.
front court badly in Houston. So do what you got to do, man. And I wish you luck, my boy. I wish you luck.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say about it is, um, like we said earlier, Boston handled the situation wrong. And we both said that maybe he deserved to be fired, but for that situation. But in the Boston Celtics situation, the actual organization that is now, it's the same roster. Um, it's the same players. It's the only difference is the coach. Now they did struggle a bit, before they actually turned it on and made it to the NBA Finals last year. But it leads you to think or ask the question: if Ime was there, would they be struggling how they are currently with the Miami Heat, or would they be able to at least have the series? And the series is not over; it's only 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
But would they have at least won one of those games that they lost in the first two games? And then again, we said that the Brooklyn Nets were going to hire them, and ultimately they did decided not to, and went with Jacques. Does Ime have the ability to keep that roster intact, keep those personalities intact, and we have a different um, Brooklyn Nets team right now? Is KD still there? Is Kyrie still there? Do they have a deep playoff run? So you think about we tend to go to the negative of things sometimes when talking about situations like this, but thinking about the positive or looking at the positives, what if Ime was still in the Boston situation, or if he was still the head coach? What if Ime was the Brooklyn Nets head coach? Knowing what we know about what he did with the Celtics 2 years ago or a year ago, are those situations different than they are in their current state? I would argue that they are. And so this is why we think he deserves a second chance because, yeah, he made a mistake, but again, everybody makes mistakes. So I know he's looking to move past all of this and get back to what he loves to do, what he has been doing for the majority of his latter part of his life. So let's allow him to do that and let him remove all of that nonsense that happened and move past this as well.
Agree, man. I agree with you 100%, G.
My boy Sticks, episode 16 done.
16?
Oh, I'm messed up. 26. 26. 2-6. I said 16, man. Yeah. It's 2-6. Dang, how I say 16, bro?
Oh, no, you
Dang,
said
my mind.
16, but hey, that's why you got your boy right here beside you, my G. I got you.
Yeah. Blame it on the weekend. I'm blaming it on the weekend. The weekend that I had. Yeah.
All good.
But nah, episode 26 done, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. As we've said before, we haven't done this. We haven't done this part of the episodes here in a little bit, but I enjoy doing this with you every single week. Pause. To where we
Indeed.
can come together as brothers, man, and just have this banter back and forth in this talk, man. It truly warms my heart to do this with you, boy, man. Like I said, I love you, boy. You my dog, and we're gonna keep
100%.
this thing going, man.
The feelings are mutual and reciprocated, my boy. But this has been Too Complex Podcast. We hope that you enjoyed today's show. You can find us on all of your major podcast streaming services. Make sure that you subscribe to those podcasts so that you don't miss an episode. Also follow us on all of our social media platforms. It is Too Complex Pod on all of those: YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And remember, if it ain't too complex, it ain't complex at all. We appreciate your support, and until next time, salute.
Salute.